Thank you one and all for attending this afternoon. This is the regular board meeting of the Board of Directors of the East Bay Regional Park District, August 23, 2022. We are commencing at 1:04 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you do the roll of the board?
Yes, President Coffey. Director Rosario.
Here.
Director Lane.
Here.
Director Waspy.
Here.
Director Eccles.
Here.
Director Wieskamp.
Here.
Director Corbett.
Here.
President Coffey.
Here.
And our executive team, General Manager Landreth.
Here.
Deputy General Manager Alvarez.
Here.
General Counsel Burgo.
Here.
AGM Cook. AGM Cook. All right, AGM Kelchner.
She's here.
Yeah, I see. Sorry, AGM Kelchner.
Here.
AGM Chief Chiobaro. Acting
He's
AGM.
here.
I can hear. Acting AGM Casabon.
Here.
AGM O'Connor. Or is it Castile? Who's acting? And then CFO AGM Ocker.
Okay, they're all here.
Yeah.
I asked Director Lane to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someday.
Thank you, Director Lane. And I asked Dr. Alvarez to do our native acknowledgement this afternoon. Anna?
Thank you, Director Coffey, members of the board, esteemed colleagues. The East Bay Regional Park District boundaries bring together in time of memorial many indigenous tribes. And today, the Ohlone, Babe Miwok, and the Delta Yokut people are thriving Bible members of the East Bay community. They remain intrinsically connected to the land, and I would like to take a moment to acknowledge not only their contributions today, but also to make note that the indigenous eco-cultural practices have actually continued to contribute to the protection of the natural world. They inspire and crystallizes a pathway to accelerate climate smart conservation at a time where it's so desperately needed to be able to continue to live on Mother Earth as we know it. And most importantly, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that it is indigenous tribes of all of California that are contributing to California's audacious goal to preserve 30% of its land and 30% of its water for the protection of the world as we understand today. So thank you very much for the opportunity to acknowledge them.
Thank you, Anna. And again, congratulations on your appointment to the 30 by 30 Commission. Very, very proud of our representation, your representation on that committee. So next up, we need to approve today's agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Director Wieskamp makes the motion. Director Rosario seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffey. Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
And President Coffey.
Aye.
Have unanimous approval of the agenda.
So we're going to move toward public comment not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please describe the three ways that we provide for public comment?
Yes, President Coffey, I'm going to do that. I'm going to provide the various ways. So via email to Yolanda Burial Knight, myself, clerk of the board, at yburial@evparks.org, via voicemail at 510-544-2016, and leaving a message with the we will transcribe it and give it to the board. or simply by joining the meeting in person or via the Zoom link, which is listed on the agenda. And I'm going to read some additional information here today. So I'd like everyone that is planning to publicly comment, please listen to this statement. Public comments will not be read at the meeting, but any written emails or transcribed voice messages will be included in the final board packet. All comments and letters received before the deadline yesterday have been distributed to the board and will not be read at this meeting. You are allowed whatever President Coffey's designated minutes are to speak. When your name is called, please unmute your mic and start your video. Announce your name and begin speaking. I will come on camera. You will see my face when it is 20 seconds left from your comment. After your comment is completed, please mute your mic and stop your video. You can speak to multiple topics within the time frame allotted, and the time will not reset after each topic. Written comments that have just been received are not going to be able to be distributed to the board, but they will get them after the meeting because I'm receiving emails as I'm speaking. You may remain in the meeting. However, we ask that you stay on mute without commenting and stop your video. If you prefer to watch, please go to the YouTube link, which is posted on the meeting agenda. That's it, President Coffey.
Okay, and we have received some emails, and some emails have been distributed and reviewed by the board.
Yes.
And we'll move for, yes.
I was going to say, and there are some that you will get after this meeting because they're sending me emails now. I can't address them. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so first, we're going to have public comment on matters not on our agenda this afternoon.
Yes.
So we want to get a sense of how many people want to speak at this point in the meeting on matters not on our agenda. So do we have a sense of that, Yolanda?
Well, we do have some that have actually let us know, and I only have 4 people that have emailed in advance. But however, there are many members, many names on the meeting, so we can ask them to raise their hands.
That's under reactions, right, on Zoom?
Yeah. So
all right, let's get an idea from folks. Thank you very much. I see 3 so far.
4,
4, 5.
6, 7.
All right, we have 7 hands up.
Then I believe there are several speakers in the boardroom. I cannot see them.
Raise your hands. 3.
7. Okay, so we got.
So we have 10 speakers overall on matters not on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go ahead with those speakers if you'll call on them, Yolanda, and with just 10, we can give the full 3 minutes.
Yes, Director Coffey, can we have the speakers that are in the boardroom, all 3 of them, come to the podium? And the only person that I know for sure that is there is Erica Guerrero. I do not know who the other 2 speakers are.
All right.
Introduce yourself. And you have 3 minutes.
Yolanda, I'm via Zoom. I'm not in the board.
Oh, okay. All right. So then let me come back to you, Erica. Let's have the speakers that are in the boardroom speak.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yes. She wanted to have you near the podium.
Well, there's that laptop there.
Yes, I see that. Do I need to do any, take any action?
Just to turn on the mic.
PJ can help you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the full 3 minutes. If you don't mind, I'll read from this. It's better organization of my thoughts. Hello, Board of Directors and General Manager. My name is Noah Dort. I'm an administrative analyst in operations here at Peralta Oaks, and I've been a Park District employee for over 15 years. I'm here today to comment on the telecommute policy. Others may speak on the very important topics of work-life balance, health concerns, and the high dollar cost of commuting. I'm here to express my disappointment and ask the question, what problem is being solved? I'm disappointed that management is acting in bad faith regarding this negotiation. What problem is being solved when management pushes their version of the telecommute policy instead of continuing the existing telecommute practice until negotiations are complete? I'm disappointed that there appears to be no clear reason for management's proposed changes to the telecommute policy. What problem is being solved by removing the grievance option? What problem is being solved with management's seemingly arbitrary minimum days in the office? Is there data that shows staff is less productive when working from home? Or that a minimum of 3 days in the office results in some ideal of poorly defined workplace culture? Most of all, I'm disappointed that management and the board are not upholding the Park District's mission statement and resolutions. The Park District's mission states that, quote, an environmental ethic guides the district in all of its activities, end quote. In July 2017, the board unanimously, most of whom are still on the board here, unanimously passed a resolution, quote, declaring the East Bay Regional Park District's commitment to uphold the Paris Climate Accord goals, end quote, which acknowledges that climate change is a threat to our natural world, economy, safety, public health, and quality of life. It further acknowledges that climate change is occurring and is caused by human activity, especially the combustion of fossil fuels, which create greenhouse gases. The resolution states that the district is a national leader in climate smart practices and also highlights the district's efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and relieve traffic congestion. The resolution states the district's commitment to further reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The Park District has done good work in this area, to be clear, including the installation of solar panels at Shadow Cliffs and converting more and more of the Park District's equipment and fleet to electric power. But then I look at the telecommute policy proposed by management and I ask, what problem is being solved with seemingly arbitrary minimum days in the office? Instead of minimums, shouldn't the Park District be encouraging staff to work from home whenever and wherever possible? Isn't it better to prevent unnecessary commutes, to keep staff cars off the road and prevent greenhouse gas emissions? Climate change is here, and its negative impacts will only increase in severity. It may sound cliche, but what are you going to tell your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, your constituents, when they ask you if you did everything you could to prevent and mitigate the causes of climate change? Yes, you can point to the Park District's good efforts, but can you really say you did everything in your power? Can you really say the Park District is a leader when management says it's following other agencies and seems unwilling to even acknowledge the state of California allows for up to 100% work from home where possible? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Noah.
You're welcome. The next speaker, come to the mic.
I'm a little shorter than Noah. Good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board, General Manager Landreth, other Park District employees, both management and AFSCME. I'm Sarah Reek, and I work in the land acquisition.
Just 1 second. Whoever is speaking, please mute your mic.
Mute.
Whoever.
Josh Phillips. There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. You can start over again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep some distance, I'm sorry.
It's right in the sweet spot, right? Okay. As I said, good afternoon. I'm Sarah Reek. I am an employee in the land acquisition department here at the Park District. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to comment today on the Park District's proposed telework policy. I've been hesitant to talk about the telework policy for fear that I might be labeled too union-y and maybe miss some opportunities in the future. But I'm taking a leap of faith that my comments will be considered in the manner in which they are given, which is with respect and admiration and loyalty. I'm extremely grateful for my employment at the Park District. I have met amazing people. I've grown my skill set, and I truly enjoy my work every day. I am here to ask the board and management to continue to work with the union towards a telework agreement that more closely aligns with the realities of living in the Bay Area. Our new normal is that we all have to consider making daily changes to our habits to combat climate change. And we all need to face demands on our families that are more complex than they've ever been, which creates a lot of stress. I personally have an hour-long commute from work. It is not because I live very far, it's just traffic in the Bay Area. Thank you. Was I not on? Oh. But I did choose myself to accept employment with the district, knowing that I would have a long commute because I wanted to have work that was fulfilling, and I believed in the mission and the vision of the district. But when the pandemic hit and we were all forced to work from home, something happened. I became a happier person. My life had more balance. I felt the stress that I carry in my shoulders and my neck start to dissipate. And I also felt better that I wasn't sitting in traffic, for 2 hours every day. It's just a small contribution that I could make to improving climate change issues. I think that being happier and more balanced makes me a better employee. And staff was told over and over again that we were doing a good job and that we were continuing to move the matters in the business of the district forward. I don't like to say this, but I do feel that the telework policy is maybe it isn't punitive, but it feels punitive to me, taking our rights to grieve and requiring staff to work more hours in the office when we can produce the same level and quality of work at home feels punitive. Your employees do a good job for you because you hired well. You hired employees that are trained well, that are generally good people, that want to contribute to their community, and that have a good work ethic. I will say something similar to what Noah said, and that many of you have heard me say in the past. The park district is. Oh, thank you very much.
Go finish the last part.
Oh, okay. We all took a leap of faith in a turbulent time. We rose to the challenge. Let's continue to do that together. Let's continue to trust that we can all work and serve our communities under this new model, and we can have a healthier workforce and help slow climate change. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, President Coffey and other directors and staff here today. My name is Renee Patterson. I work in operations for business services on the 3rd floor of Peralta Oaks. I just wanted to come today to say personally that I hope you do get involved in this, what I call a dispute over what our policy is and isn't. And as most of the people that have come to speak, we are for telecommuting, not against telecommuting. We would like to remain at whatever kind of situation that we have had to date since we came back. Even though I did grieve the initial telecommute days that I was allowed to have, that has been denied, and I have been in the office 3 days a week since I believe November. So I'm hoping that you can help management come to the decision to let us continue with our policy as it is set right now until it's been negotiated for a final policy with the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Renee. Yolanda, let me ask if there's any more individuals in the room that wanted to make a comment.
Yes, I understand Suzanne Wilson. Is she in the room?
Yes.
Okay,
Go ahead, Suzanne.
would like to make a comment.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members, general manager. I'm Suzanne Wilson, the senior planner in the Trails program. And I'm here today to express my disappointment that the district is putting union employees in the position of having to choose between working full-time in person and agreeing to a unilateral one-size-fits-all agreement that doesn't allow for grievance and puts arbitrary restrictive rules on employees, regardless of their performance, the history of their performance, and the nature of their work. A more flexible telecommute agreement should be able to be discussed and mutually agreed upon by employees and their supervisors and managers, to allow for more equitable, climate smart, and an option that also serves to recruit potential employees and offers current employees a nice work-life balance and some cost savings as well. We've set up our lives around the agreements we have in place, And it's wonderful that they're able to be flexible when needed. When you're in a position like mine and you're in the field sometimes and do site visits, it will be difficult to limit yourself to site visits and field visits on just the days that you're supposed to be in person, or have to get writing ahead of time in order to switch a day around that week so that you can attend a field visit or site visit. The agreements mean that this new agreement would mean that coming in more often for me would be contributing more carbon emissions on an additional day, spending more money on gas, and my kids would spend more time in daycare while they wait for me to drive home to get them. I think that we have been efficient and productive while working at home. And I think the flexibility that allows us to do our jobs both in the field and in the office has been beneficial to what we've been doing, and has built our relationships and strengthened our relationships with our supervisors and the communication that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Madam Clerk, where do you want to go next?
Okay, then let's do the speakers. I'm gonna start with Erica Guerrero. You have 3 minutes, Erica.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Afternoon, members of the board. I'm here today to express my disappointment in the false commitment the management team made to uphold the current telecommute policy until the meet and confer with ASME was completed. To my knowledge, the general management team made limited to no efforts to proceed through the course of the meet and confer process. Instead, they provided employees with exactly 2 weeks to decide how to change their schedules in accordance with their new proposed telecommute policy. On 7/22/22, the GM sent out an email stating that the new telecommute policy was only applicable to confidential management and unrepresented employees. Then, a mere 3 weeks later, all ASME represented employees were forced to sign the same exact agreement without the meet and confer process going beyond just a few simple meetings. I don't believe either side got past one round of negotiation. Myself and my other fellow employees feel as though we're being strong-armed into signing an agreement before the proper negotiation steps were taken to determine what's best for both the employees and the district. Over the course of the past few days, all district employees have received the press emails praising the member of management team's involvement in the 30x30 Partnership Coordinating Committee. The very goal of this committee is to accelerate the conservation of California's nature. The website claims that nature-based solutions are described as actions that work with and enhance nature to help address societal changes. It goes on to suggest other solutions such as reduce energy costs and the reduced impacts of pollution. So if society is attempting to change for the better to benefit California, why aren't we? If we have members of management that are in these committees and representing the district in regards to these morals and values, why are we not practicing what we are preaching? We are reverting our energy savings, our pollution reduction, and our own nature-based solution contributions as a district. The management team's decision to unilaterally move forward with the new telecommute policy will create a string of negative effects of all employees who benefit from the current policy. As the district, it's insulting to know that there haven't been any write-ups or a decrease in productivity. Yes, it feels like we're being punished. The required Wednesday workday has no precedence. The elimination of the grievance process is unwarranted, and eliminating our telecommute days on our flex week just adds insult to injury. We are asking that you allow the employees to continue their current telecommute agreements until the meet and confer process has been completed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Erica. You're muted.
Thanks. Our next speaker will be Paul Ferrario. Paul, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board, and all staff. My name is Paul Ferrario. I was hired in 1991. That is the same class as Miss Yolanda, our clerk of the board. I want to go back a year or so when those of us with kids, the kids were home, remote schooling, and during regular business meetings for the district, coworkers might overhear a sound of a trumpet practice or saxophone practice or some of the kids, and everybody was okay with it. Those brief interruption like that. I think everybody recognized it helped keep us grounded in all this COVID craziness. I want to encourage the board to direct managers to keep our current telecommute arrangement going while the meet and confer process irons things out. It's all in the spirit of flexibility, and I think flexibility is always a positive. It always makes things better. I can't see any loss to the district if we continue the status quo and work things out through meet and confer. Over my years here, I've been trained, and my work experience is to always look for things that are potentially losses to the district. I don't really see any if we continue our current arrangement. And I daily work with field employees, office employees. Generally, when things are going wrong, that's what we do in risk management. We help fix things when things go wrong. So I don't see anything falling off, getting work not getting done under our current arrangement. So I really hope it could continue because it serves so many employees well until through the regular meet and confer process, just like when our union contracts expire and we continue under them until the new contract comes into play some months later. It's the same idea. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Moore. Michael, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Michael, you cannot start video because the host has stopped it. Okay. You can hear me but not see me. Oh, here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you now, sir.
Hello, my name is Mike Moore. I'm a park service worker at Del Val. You know, it's alarming that district management has determined to unilaterally change employees' working conditions during ongoing meet and confer negotiations with the Ask Me over teleworking. Management's insistence that the telecommuting policy be exempt from the grievance process strikes at one of the central tenets of a union's power, the right to present and redress grievances. Without a grievance process, there is no way to hold the district accountable when they do not follow their policy. It will be the employees that are left to live with the outcomes of those decisions. To accept any reduction to our fundamental union rights would set a precedent for the future erosion of our union's power. This is not just about telework. If we allow management to get their way and lose AFSCME's rights to file grievances over this issue, the district will try to restrict our grievance rights in many more places beyond teleworking, including in-field operations where I work. So I'm just worried about our union and the districts. You know, it just feels like they're not into it. But thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mike. Our next speaker is Sarah Lounsbury. Sarah, please, 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, President Coffey and board members. My name is Sarah Lounsbury. I'm an admin specialist and have worked for the district for 6 years. The district's restrictive new telecommute policy goes into effect in 8 days, and I'm asking for your help to intervene. At this point, I feel pressured to sign the agreement under duress by tomorrow, August 24th. As an employee, I am stressed by what is on offer, a policy that is not people-centered and leaves no room for an employee to appeal a telecommute decision, and a policy that puts the status quo above all else, even staff well-being. In my office, my team is usually out in the field, at schools or parks, leading interpretive programs, so I work independently. Physically, my office is situated above a ranger workshop with tractors, utility vehicles, and table saws directly below me. It's sort of like a barn with dirt constantly tracked in from the unpaved district lot. In winter, things get worse with rodents. I'm not alone, as many staff work out in the parks in makeshift offices. These conditions are obviously less than ideal, and now that I've experienced a home office, I do not want to go back full-time. Can we meet in the middle? Can I work from home 3 days per week and come to the office 1 to 2 days? I spoke at your last board meeting too, but unfortunately haven't seen any changes to the telecommute policy. I thought I could convince you by talking about the district's commitment to climate change and taking cars off the road, or by highlighting my improved mental health. But I don't feel like I've made a difference. The message sent to me is that I should know my place, that my opinion doesn't matter, and that I should fall in line or start looking for a new job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Amanda Sanders. You have 3 minutes, Amanda. Amanda? Amanda? Okay, we're gonna move on to, we'll come back to you, Amanda. Kristen Van Dam.
I'm not here.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Amanda. Kristen Van Dam.
I
Hi, thank you
can't hear.
very much.
Okay, I don't know who's talking. So let's have Kristen Van Dam. Kristen, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, President Coffey and members of the board. I'm once again here to speak on management's proposed telework policy. I'm concerned about the lack of transparency in this proposed policy. Management has provided no evidence to support the need for staff to be in a central office in order to do their jobs effectively. The last time I spoke before this board, I mentioned that studies show that in general, remote work made workers happier and more productive. Remote work is not for everyone, but likewise, mandatory in-office work is not for everyone. Many local and highly successful companies, including Meta, which owns Facebook, SAP, and Slack, have adopted telework remote first policies. That is, remote work is the standard and office work is the exception. This kind of policy does two important things. One, that policy trusts the worker to produce their requisite value for the company. Two, that policy gives the worker the choice of how and where to work. I work incredibly hard in my role to support the massive amount of work that our fuels management program demands of its team. This includes an unpredictable schedule with a lot of travel, working before and after normal work hours, basically whatever is needed to get this work done. And I need that flexibility to do my job. In addition, in my most recent performance review this August, I received the highest possible overall rating of outstanding. So it's hard to reconcile this with the idea that remote work is limiting my job performance. Please direct management to trust our workers and keep our existing agreements intact. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. I
Thank
think
you.
Amanda's here now.
Yes, she is.
Hi, Amanda.
Amanda, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Amanda Sanders, and I am a senior administrative specialist in the Planning, Trails, and GIS department. Today, I implore the board to instruct management to stop imposing arbitrary limitations on telework. There are many reasons why the new policy put forth by management is concerning that I'm sure you'll hear about from my coworkers. Here are my personal reasons. Requiring everyone to come into Peralta Oaks on the same day, it's proposed to be Wednesday, will lead to a rise in COVID-19 cases among staff. I personally have had COVID 4 times, twice in 2020, once in 2021, and once in 2022. Each time that I've had it, I was out of work for at least 2 weeks and up to 5 weeks due to lingering symptoms. Recovery was not easy. I would hate to have another instance of COVID, this time caused by work exposure. The wording from the board resolution to continue holding remote and hybrid board meetings says that the board of directors acknowledges that there still exists a state of emergency and holding an entirely in-person meeting would present certain risks to health and safety. That wording clearly shows that the board realizes that having a large amounts of people in the same area is a health concern. Staff would be at increased risk for serious illnesses. In addition, the wording in the proposed telecommute agreement that says employees shall be available to report in person to a park district work location at any time for any reason if summoned is not acceptable wording at all and would needs to be removed from the agreement. Thank you for your time. Please instruct management to come forward with a reasonable telework policy that we can meet in the middle on.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Anna Marie, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Anna Marie Guerrero, and I am the Cultural Services Coordinator for the Park District. I spoke at the last meeting as well. So first, I just want to say thank you to the board for hearing my comments and those of my colleagues today. I want to express my extreme disappointment in the proposed changes to the teleworking policy. As so many others have noted, if we're working towards a climate change solution, it just makes sense to allow for telecommuting when possible. If it's an issue of productivity, I don't think that forcing folks back into the office in any way ensures an increase in productivity. In fact, as Suzanne Wilson noted, a one-size-fits-all policy like the one being forced upon us, where it's with such an inflexible telecommute policy, is actually not conducive and in fact counterproductive to my personal productivity and the way my work schedule is. A lot of the world has changed post-pandemic. Not everything has opened back up to what and how it was before. It only makes sense that the Park District, who is supposed to be a leader in such things, like, changes with the way that the Bay Area has also changed. This is an important issue to so many of the Park District staff. Having an inflexible policy limits us as a competitive workplace in terms of recruiting and retention of talented employees. So I really hope that the board hears the words of so many of its employees, of so many of the Park District's employees today, and encourages management to work with us on our telecommute policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna Marie.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Ross Mitchell, you have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Hello, Board of Directors. Appreciate the time to speak with you. As Amanda mentioned, on the consent calendar, there is a resolution acknowledging that a state of emergency still exists, and it also acknowledges that there are many benefits to remote work and hybrid work. Two that are mentioned are the increased flexibility and reduction of people commuting long distances to sit in meetings. We're asking the board to recognize that these benefits also apply to the telework agreement between ASME and district management. And rather than create restrictions, we want to see the district embrace the benefits of telework and utilize telework to the maximum extent possible. Further, management is cutting away at our fundamental union rights with their proposal to exempt this policy from the grievance procedure. Doing this denies both the employee and the district a fair and objective system to raise and review issues and complaints without bias. With the grievance procedure, ASME members know they have a way to have their concerns taken seriously and handled fairly. By reducing grievance rights, management sends the exact opposite message to their employees. It sends a message that employee input is not wanted and that their decisions are above review. Removing a grievance procedure would also have the byproduct of removing the orderly process to review problems as they arise with employees, and potentially open the district to having to deal with more costly and more time-consuming complaints through regulatory agencies such as DFEH, Department of Fair Employment and Housing, or the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission. That would not be good for employees. Morale would suffer in that case. And also that would not be good for the district. Those are potentially, like I said, much more costly and much more time consuming. We hope that the board will support the strong unions as they have in the past and not exempt policies from grievance procedures. Thank you.
Thank you. And President Coffey, we have one more speaker, Meadow Darcy, will be the last public commenter.
All right, Meadow.
You have 3 minutes, Meadow.
Good afternoon. My name is Meadow Darcy, and I'm an administrative analyst for the Park District. I came today because my son actually wanted to speak today, and unfortunately, he took the day off yesterday to take his driving test, and he failed. And so he had a rough day yesterday. So he wanted to make sure that he went to school today to make up any time that he missed. But I'm really proud of my son for writing this statement. My name is Christian Darcy Dominguez, and my mom is Meadow Darcy. I am 16 years old. I couldn't come today because I'm in school, but I asked my mom to read my statement. When the pandemic happened and my mom began working from home, I never really knew what she did at work. Then I saw her at home with me and my 2 brothers having to juggle her work and our school, and I could see it was really hard for her. I would ask her why she had to work so much, and she would say, because the Park District needs me. We need to work hard because they are allowing us to work from home, and we need to keep things going. My mom worked so many hours, not only doing her regular job, but she was also helping so many workers in the union. It seemed like she worked day and night every day. She kept doing this for the next few years. Now my mom said her work is trying to make everyone go back to the office more. She said they think that she will get more work done there. If my mom does more work there, then I'm worried about her. She does so much and I don't know how she could do more. I guess I want to know why. What was she doing wrong? It doesn't seem fair to me that my mom and all those other workers have to go back to work in the office when seeing my mom doing so much. I think you all should realize how hard my mom and all the other people work. So many of my friends' parents work from home, sometimes the whole time. My mom says the Park District is about protecting the environment, but how is making her go to the office to do the same work she's doing at home going to help the environment? I'm really proud of my mom and all the work she has done. I think you should let her and all the other workers work from home as much as possible. Thank you.
Meadow, thank your son for sharing with us.
Thank you.
It's appreciated.
We have no more public speakers on the line. I don't know if we have any in the office, in the boardroom, but I think we're done.
No, not seeing any. So we will move on to, and want to thank all the speakers. We appreciate your input. We will move to the consent calendar. So I want to see how we're doing on the consent calendar, both in terms of board member questions, or if there are any matters to be discussed that have been requested or identified by board members.
Director Rosario's questions were answered, and I don't know if anyone else has any questions they'd like to ask.
We okay, Dee? Okay. Director Rosario is okay. Director Lane.
Yes, I just had one comment on the minutes,
Go ahead.
and that was on page 11. I would prefer that we said on the minutes who the vote for consent item K. We didn't say, we said something general, but I think we should say who voted which direction.
Can we fix that, Madam Clerk? In
Yes.
the minutes? All right, the minutes will be corrected. Any other items? I'll look to my Zoom colleagues.
Well, and then I also had one other thing, and that was to say congratulations on Jay for getting the routine maintenance and restoration program approval. I know that's important and it takes a lot of time to do. So that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, I'm not hearing any other items being pulled for discussion by board members. Do we have any? I know we have some emails on a couple of these from Mike Vanderman. We've read. Any public comments on any of the items on the consent calendar?
I do not see any. Let me do a quick check and see if we have anybody else with their hands raised.
No one present.
No, President Coffee, only the other, just what you mentioned about Mike Vanderman's 2 emails.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Director Rosario and Director Wieskamp seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for us on the consent calendar.
Yes, President Coffee. Director Waspy.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
And President Coffee.
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you. Now to the irregular agenda. We have Executive and Legislative Division. Item A, authorization of the 22-23 tax rate to be levied by Alameda and Contra Costa counties for the payment of EBRPD Measure WW general obligation bonds. Who is presenting?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Deborah Spalding, Assistant Finance Officer,
All right, thank you, Deborah.
and I am just trying to find my presentation up here. I might need some help. Okay, yeah. All right. Am I sharing this? Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
If you talk directly into the mic, that would help me.
Okay, can you hear me
Yep.
better now?
Yeah, there we go.
All right, and now I think I'm truly sharing my screen. All right. From the beginning. All right. How do I get this to start? I might get some help again. Sorry, it's like the little bar is hidden for presentation mode.
What's that?
Just getting it into presentation mode. Slideshow, that's it. Okay, finally. No, not right. Shoot. Oh, it's good. Okay, good. Just a little delay. All right, thank you. So today you're going to be authorizing the tax levy to be levied by Contra Costa and Alameda County on the 2022-23 property tax bills. And this is for payment of our Measure WW general obligation bonds. So first I'll give you a bit of background and overview of our what's on your property tax bill. And I've got a screenshot here of your typical Alameda County property tax bill. And I'll just walk you through this. We receive revenue from this, from property taxes in various ways, and some of them are more obvious than others. So here are two of our fixed assessments. Number one is our 2 county trails, so $5.44. You can see that as number one. And then we've got our Measure FF, which is $12 annually on the left. So that's listed as CFD number AC3, but it's really, we know it as Measure FF. And now getting to the meat of what we're talking about today. So we also receive revenues based on assessed value. And so the majority of our general fund revenue comes from, we get a percentage of the 1% property tax, that countywide tax that's circled in blue. The amount that we receive from each parcel varies depending on the tax rate allocation area. But that little pie chart on the right, I'm showing that all that revenue, about 20% of it goes to special districts. And we're just one of those special districts. So we get a percent of the 1%. And then lastly, number 4 is the debt levy that we're talking about today. So that amount there is a percent of the total assessed value. And we calculate that every year. So how do we calculate it? So we need to know how much money we owe in the coming year, and we spread that out across the assessed value of all properties. Here's how we know our property taxes, or excuse me, our debt service amounts that we owe. We work with our financial advisors when we issue bonds to set up the payments so that we know that we'll be able to stay within $10 per 100,000 of assessed value, which is what we promised to voters when Measure WW is passed. That's the circled thing in the right is what our payments are for like a set bond issuance, just as an example. And so the variable is the assessed value. So typically I come to you guys at our meeting, which is early in August, before we have the actual assessed value information. As it happens, we're taking this item a little bit later. So we actually do have the assessed value information. But so this timeline is a little bit confusing perhaps, but we generally get the assessed value information in mid-August. You will have approved the levy assessment before we have that assessed value. And then we submit it to the county auditor's controller's office by August 31st. So we now do actually have the assessed value information. So that rate is going to be $5.80 per 100,000 of assessed value. And we'll do a full presentation on that at the Finance Committee tomorrow. A question that may be occurring to you is, where is assessed value headed? So we did have strong increases this year, approximately 8% in both of the counties. And we only know what that increase is going to be for the first half of the year because we're on a calendar year basis, but the counties are on the fiscal year basis. So we use Beacon to help us project for the second half of the year, Beacon Economics. And so we'll be receiving those projections soon, and then we'll have a full projection for 2023's property tax revenue. But again, our financial advisors have helped us structure our debt so that we stay below $10 per 100,000 of AV, no matter what happens. So what this board agenda item does, you are going to approve us to levy this tax, and then we'll send that tax levy rate to the two counties. And we'll provide the final calculation tomorrow at the Finance Committee meeting in detail with some additional information about how the rates are increasing in the coming fiscal year. That concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Deborah. We'll look to the members of the board. Any questions or comments? Director Waspy.
I'd just like to say thank you, Deborah, for the presentation, and thank you, staff, for keeping it under $10. I think that's a legitimate promise and a good promise, and I think that's why the voters like us so much. So I'm glad we're under that. I was wondering, how much does the county charge us to collect, be our collector, so to speak, or both counties? And is there a difference in rate between the two counties?
Thanks, Dennis. There is a difference in the rate that we're charged. I don't know it offhand. So let me look into that and I can get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
So move.
Director Lane, seconded
Second.
by Director Waspy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffee. Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
And President Coffee.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimously approved.
Next item on the agenda is adoption of the East Bay Regional Park District policy for capital projects prioritization. And we discussed this extensively at a board workshop. So this is for approval of the policy as it was presented and we discussed at our workshop. Christina?
Thank you, Director Coffey. Christina Kelchner, Assistant General Manager of Acquisition Stewardship and Development. And you are absolutely right, Director Coffey, that we have brought this item before the board at two different study sessions. So today we are here to ask the board, recommend to the board adoption of the policy that sets forth the criteria. So backing up a bit, I do have Lisa Gorgon, our Chief of Design and Construction, and Lisa Baldinger are available from Government Affairs, who have been very instrumental in putting this policy together to help answer any questions. And go ahead and do the next slide. And just to, next slide, please, Lisa. And just to give, again, the reason why we are doing all of this, the goal of adopting a policy that sets forth criteria for how we're spending public dollars, all of our dollars on capital projects and how we're prioritizing those capital projects, is we're really seeking to provide additional transparency to the public. We're looking to create more efficiency in our work by stabilizing work plans for staff. Lisa, you can go to the next slide, please. And we also think this will help to improve our funding strategies And most importantly, we hope that by adopting this criteria and this process for transparently prioritizing our projects, we will be really ensuring that our capital projects and the money that we're spending on those capital projects, what we're delivering to the community, really aligns with our mission and our vision here at the Park District. This is a best practice, and staff did look at several other public agencies who have a similar kind of process to prioritize capital projects. So just to say again that we did have a robust process. Next slide. We did have a robust process. We've been working for about the last 8 months. We've been gathering input from staff at all levels and across all divisions of the Park District. And we did a community survey that the board has heard about in the last couple of presentations that helped to inform the criteria. We also went to the PAC, the Parks Park Advisory Committee, last month, and the PAC members really gave some thoughtful and insightful questions and comments on the policy, and ultimately voted to support the policy and concept. And this is the third time we've been before the board with this policy. We did have 2 informational study sessions, and staff really appreciates all the thoughtful input and comments from the board members. We've done our best to incorporate that input, and we're happy to be back today with the final policy to recommend for adoption. I do want to emphasize that these criteria are for prioritization of projects. The criteria are to inform which projects get advanced when. Projects that score high will move up in the queue. Projects that score lower will be pushed later, but it doesn't mean that those projects won't get done. So this is just about which projects get done when and how we're prioritizing the work. And if approved by the board, these criteria and the policy, the process will be incorporated into the 2023 budget process, which we're kicking off now. And you can go to the next slide, please. I do want to just a couple of key definitions that the board has seen before, but just to remind folks, the proposed policy applies only to capital projects. So a capital project we define as a single project that has a beginning and an end, rather than a program like the Park District's paving program or pond restoration program. These are capital projects, discrete projects. And the prioritization process also will not apply to what we're calling essential projects, which are projects that are legally mandated, they're a regulatory requirement, or a critical health and safety. And examples of that would be the Glenside Olivera Bridge that we replaced recently because it was failing, and the Anthony Chabot sewer project, which is a regulatory requirement. Next slide, please. And one more definition that I want to touch on is equity. You'll see this is the first criteria, and it's not the only criteria in the policy, but it is weighted a little more heavily than the others with 20 points, and most of the other criteria have 15 or 10 points. And I just wanted to reiterate that equity, as you're using it in this policy, does not refer to equal distribution, with capital projects spread equally across the district or a city or a county, because that sort of geographic equal distribution does not take into account the reality that some communities have historically had far less investment than other communities. Go ahead to the next slide. This historic inequity results in disadvantaged communities as defined by the state. These are communities which experience a disproportionate share of pollution, environmental degradation, poor health and socioeconomic conditions. It also results in what the state defines as communities of concern, which have high populations of seniors, people with disabilities, single parent households, and other challenges. We're excited because to bring this policy forward, because this really is the direction that government agencies are going to make real progress toward equity by acknowledging and taking into account historical inequities and entrenched inequality. Okay, so with that background, here we go with the 10 criteria, and I'll try to keep this brief because this will be the third time the board has heard it, but I did just want to walk through them for the public's sake and so the board could hear it one more time. There are 10 criteria. The first one, as I mentioned, is equity. We are connecting to the state and regional definitions, as I just mentioned, and those are updated annually so that we can stay current with the state's understanding and the larger community's understanding of what the greatest needs are of our communities that we serve. Examples of projects that would score well under this criteria would be Thurgood Marshall Regional Park, home of the Port Chicago 50, and the Tidewater project at the Martin Luther King Shoreline. The second criteria, habitat and resource conservation. This aligns, of course, with the Park District's mission of having an environmental ethic in everything that we do. And example projects that would store high here would be the creek restoration at Sibley, McCosker, and the Dotson Family Marsh restoration as well. Increasing and enhancing public access is number 3. These and 2 and 3 are really kind of the heart of what makes us the Park District. This is the Park District's mission. Projects that would score well here would be Dumbarton Quarry.
Thank you.
Or the Roddy Ranch Deer Valley access that we're working on. All right, next slide. Moving on to number 4, climate preparedness. Examples of this are Hayward Marsh along our shoreline to address sea level rise there, Alameda Point, Northwest Territories, and Crown Beach, just to give a few examples of sea level rise and ways that we are working to combat climate change. Number 5 is partnership. Some of these examples would be the National Park Service partnership that we have at Thurgood Marshall Regional Park, the former Concord Naval Weapons Station, the Black Diamond Mines and Coal Exhibit, and Shadow Cliffs Pavilion, where we're partnering with the Regional Parks Foundation to provide funding and support for those projects. Number 6 is operating efficiencies. And examples here would be the Anthony Chabot Sewer Project, Crown Beach Sewer, and Roberts Pool. We're really looking here at projects in the field where we're getting a lot of maintenance requests, and it's requiring a lot of staff time and funding to do maintenance projects when really we need to just do a larger fix to reduce those maintenance costs. Okay, 4 more to go. Number 7 is public and environmental health. Here we look at water quality, so the Lake Anza oxygenation treatment, the Del Valle water treatment, and are a couple of examples that would score well for public and environmental health. Multi-beneficial use in number 8. This one is my personal favorite. This is a project that does a lot of things for us. So it hits a lot of our boxes. And for example, the Doolittle Trail, we are repairing a boat launch, we're repairing an old trail, we're providing new habitat in the Arrowhead Marsh, and the Tilden Brook Road crossing. That is an old failing ford that causes flooding and is a barrier for fish passage. That will be removed to provide a better visitor experience and also provide better habitat and fish passage. And it also, in addition, provides some mitigation credit that we can use to offset other work that we're doing in streams. Number 9, maintains and extends the useful life and service. We like to call this the fix it or lose it criteria. So work to renovate or repair infrastructure to extend its useful life. For example, Keller Beach is a project that we're working on, and the Tilden EEC, which will be upcoming. And finally, number 10 is project readiness. And this criteria really acknowledges previously identified project and funding commitments. So examples of this would be Roberts Pool, the Tilden EEC, other projects that are identified in our WW commitment list, and other projects that the district has committed to. Okay, that's our criteria. And let's see. So scoring is what I wanted to talk about next. We did go ahead and pressure test some of these. You can go to the next slide, Lisa. So we did go ahead and pressure test some of these. This is just a sample scoring. And I should mention that the full policy is in the board packet, which is also available on our website for anyone following along and wants to be able to see the actual text of the policy. And I recognize these are hard to read, so these slides are on the website as well. But this is just to give you an example that we did do test projects that are currently in the works that we are going to be moving forward on, just to see how the scoring worked. And what we found, I'm happy to report that generally what we found in scoring test projects is that the criteria are pretty well aligned with how we are currently evaluating projects to advance. So the criteria will help to serve to daylight that process for the public so that the public can understand why we're prioritizing what we're prioritizing and help to be sure that the work we're doing is fully aligned with our mission. Next slide. Oh, sorry, just wanted to say, like Temescal, that project scored high with full points for every category except for equity and partnership. We have not yet found a partner to help us fund that, although we're open for anyone who's interested. The Tilden EEC also scored highly in every criteria except habitat and resource conservation. Lisa, you want to go ahead? And then the Thurgood Marshall Regional Park, home of Port Chicago 50, developing the south of Bailey Road, actually received a perfect score, meeting all of the criteria with a full score. And we did just get funding for that, as the board is aware, from Assemblymember Tim Grayson, $3 million for that project. So with that, it is our recommendation by staff that the board go ahead and adopt the policy for capital project prioritization so that staff can move forward to incorporate that into our budget process. And we're happy to take any questions. And as I mentioned, Chief of Design and Construction, Lisa Gorgian, and Lisa Baldinger from Government Affairs is here, as well, of course, the General Manager, and staff very much appreciates General Manager Landreth's support in championing of this approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. We'll look first to the board for comments or questions, then I'll look around to see if there's any public comment. Board members? Director Lane.
Yeah, I appreciate the work on this, and I think it'll be very helpful for us, especially as there are certain projects that board members have been asking about for a long time, and then we can see how they fit under the criteria or not. The other thing that I think we talked about in the workshop was having a direction of having at least some geographic equity, in the 3 metro areas. So does that appear under one of these criteria now or not? Or is it in a general statement?
Thank you for the question, Director Lane. Geographic equity, equality does not appear as its own criteria. It is baked into the project readiness because our WW commitment lists, which go into that scoring, look at those 3 metro areas. So, but it is not its own criteria. I don't know if General Manager Landreth wanted to add anything to that. Anybody else?
Other questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I think Christina touched on this a little bit, but this is for us to go ahead and do the ranking of the projects. Ultimately, the board will be making all the decisions on which projects move forward and when. So this is a mechanism for us to look at the ranking of the projects, but you all will see those as part of your annual budget process. We've done a little bit of a spot check to address your question, Director Lane, and it really, I think we'll find it is very balanced when those projects come forward. And I think one of those reasons is that it is already baked into some of the funding strategies that are there, and the other criteria here. So it's something we can, I see this as a living, breathing policy that you'll want to revisit probably every year just so that we can get it right. But it's something we've gone back and forth on. I think it is incorporated in there, and we'll see it once we have the final list of projects that we bring you later in the fall. I think we'll be able to have a better sense of kind of how that shakes out, and we can always tweak it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important for each of us to look at the projects in our wards. I spotted on the timber project at Hazel Atlas Mine was underscored, I thought, on the multi-use benefit of that project in terms of it allowing for full utilization of the mine tours and the coal mine experience. So it's important for us to give our input on this from our knowledge of our wards. Dee?
I just wanted to say, I think I just wanted to congratulate staff and general manager on bringing this forward. I think this is a great mechanism for not just the board, but the public to really gauge of how decisions are made. And I just see nothing but good coming out of this, and also good conversations as well. So thank you, and very appreciative of all the work that's been done on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Eccles.
Well, thank you very much, Christina, for the presentation, and really appreciate all the staff work into the policy. I think it's a fabulous policy. Very excited about the increased transparency and focus around identified goals that we're hoping to achieve with our investment. And I'm particularly happy to see equity front and center in the policy. So very, very supportive of this. And if no one else has anything to say, I'd be happy to make a motion to support the resolution.
I'll call on you in a moment then. Madam Clerk, are there any requests for public comment on this item?
No, President Coffey, I do not have any.
I don't see any hands raised.
No.
Okay, then Director Eccles will welcome your motion.
Okay, well, I move that we adopt the capital projects prioritization policy as described in the resolution.
I will second.
It's been moved by Director Eccles and seconded by Director Rosario to approve the resolution as presented. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffey. Director Wasby?
Aye.
Director Wieskamp? I know she's here. I can hear you, but I see you. There you go.
Here I am.
Director Rosario?
Aye.
Director Corbett? I know she's here. Just don't see her. There she is. Director Corbett? You're on mute, but I see your eye. Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Lane?
Aye.
And President Coffey?
Aye.
Okay, now you're off mute. Director Corbett?
Aye. Someone blocked our speaking.
Well, that happens from time to time. So thank you. It's unanimously approved, President Coffey.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to Finance and Management Services Division, item 3A, authorization to amend the 2022 budget for mid-year appropriations and transfers in the amount of $3,268,400. This was adopted by the Finance Committee, I believe.
Thank you. Here. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. I first want to thank you for coming to this special meeting. We have lots of finance business today, so I really appreciate that. And I'm going to quickly share my screen here. And today we're going to talk about our mid-year review of our annual budget. So again, I'm Deborah Ocker, Assistant General Manager of Finance and Management Services. And annually, after the completion of the prior year's annual audit, staff reviews the year-end results of last year and the status of the current year budget. So the mid-year process provides an opportunity to adjust the budgets and allocate resources that have come to our attention during the first half of the year. And it allows us to look at things based on our reserve policies, district priorities, and as I mentioned, things that have come up since we adopted the budget in the prior December. So this year, the overview of our budget process. First, we review our current year revenues and expenditures against the initial projections. We have divisions review their budgets and submit any budget request based on emergent needs and available funding that is existing from the prior year budget year closeout for the general manager's consideration. We're aligning with best practices, where this year we're really focusing on doing the majority of our appropriations in the annual budget cycle. In the past, we sometimes used mid-year to do a lot of business. We're going to try to wrap that all into the annual budget cycle going forward, starting this year. And this item was brought to the Finance Committee on July 27th. The Board Finance Committee got to hear from our budget manager, Christina Crosby, who presented, and they made a recommendation to the full board for approval. So when we look at this year's status of how we're doing on the revenue side, currently we're not recommending any changes to our revenue budgets. Property tax, again, is our strongest revenue source in our general fund. And despite all of the market volatility that we hear about and change in interest rates, property tax continues to be stable and reliable, as you heard from Deborah Spalding talking about our assessed valuation being strong in our 2 counties. The second largest part of our revenue budget is charges for services, and they are on track this year at about 52% at the midpoint of the year. And this is through June 30th, and our summer focus is just getting started at that point. So that's good. And our expenditure budgets, we've currently set up quarterly meetings with each division where we're really engaging the divisions, talking to them about their budgets. We hadn't done that on a regular basis in the past, so we have a chance to really see what's going on. And just the things that are here presented in the mid-year adjustments are the emergent needs that we see. So now just flashing back a little bit to how we ended last year. So this is also a preview of the Finance Committee meeting for tomorrow. We're going to talk about the second quarter results for this current year. And you can see on this table is what I like to look at here is the comparison of the percentage complete budget to the prior year percentage complete budget. We are fortunate here where our budgets have been growing, but you can see 47.4% complete compared to 47.6% complete. So fairly similar to prior years, right on target. Our property tax revenue does come in a little higher in the second half of the year. So this is looking as expected. On the expenditure side, similarly, we're very close to our prior year results at the end of the second quarter. 45% of our spending is complete, so that is also right on target. As I mentioned, since the summer focus, we spend a lot of money over the summer. So as of June 30th, we're in good shape. So when you look at how we ended last year and how we're doing this year, that's where we come up with what our mid-year appropriations are. This slide here is just summarizing how we ended last year and showing that we had a slight use of fund balance, about $545,000 use of fund balance in our last year's audit. And when we look at our fund balance reserve policy, we had met our policy by about $15.4 million. And so that's typically amounts that we have for future appropriations going forward. So now let me take you to what our recommendations are for this year of our appropriations. So our first proposed recommendation, and these can all be found in your packet on page 81, attachment A of the resolution. Our first amount is replenishing of reserves in accordance with our reserve policy. And we have a legal contingency reserve that is maintained at $1 million. During the prior year, 2021, $900,000 was spent. And so this action will replenish that reserve to the $1 million that it was established at. Then when we look at the divisions and what their requests are, this is the operations division, the largest division we have. And the first request here is not really from them. It's more a adjustment to the 2022 budget. So the $680,000 for annual fleet replacement was omitted from the base budget when we put it together last year. So this entry, this recommended amount will adjust the budget to what was typically in the annual base budget. The next item is something that came up early in the year, a regulatory requirement to upgrade our lifeguard chairs to comply with OSHA at various park locations. So that request is for $200,000. Also, we were negotiating the lease extension at the Pacheco Courtyard. After the budget was completed, we finalized that with a rent increase of up to $75,000. So we're requesting a budget adjustment for that. We also worked on a district-wide comprehensive pest control review and went out to bid for district-wide pest control. These costs were typically spread throughout different parks and maybe weren't up to the services that were really necessary. So once the review was completed, we're requesting $71,000 to really put into place a comprehensive pest control contract, which I believe the board has already approved. And then security cameras at the swim facilities was a priority of the budget last year. We do have some funding included, but as we got started on the Contra Loma swim facility, the cost escalations and the real needs for that project have necessitated $55,000 in additional funding. So those are the operations division. And then in human resources, we have some unplanned expenditures, unplanned executive recruitments for positions such as police captain, AGM of public affairs, and the chief information officer during the first half of the year. Also consultants for unplanned administrative investigations, which are investigations that we're working on for claims against HR policies. And then $60,000 for consultants for the interactive process for scheduled projects and training related to the interactive process and ADA management. So working on that. In our last division that we have recommendations, we have one recommendation from Acquisition, Stewardship, and Development. This is a annual payment of $75,000 for Bay Regulation Restoration Integration Team. This is a team that's accessible to us to expedite permitting in wetland and restoration areas. And this is the fourth year of a 5-year agreement that we entered into, having to do with, it kind of started with the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority projects, and a group of agencies got together to expedite permitting for these projects. So those are the last of the operating budget requests. There is one request for projects, and this is really just appropriating funds that the board has already taken action on. The district received a legal settlement in April, and $1 million was deposited to the general fund. However, that settlement does require some work to be done by the district out at the Bay Area Ridge Trail from 5 Canyons near Llama Lane. And so we're requesting that the $1 million is budgeted in a project so that we can get started on that project. So again, the amount available based on the prior year audit was about $15.5 million. We have that additional legal settlement of $1 million, making available funding of $16.5 million. We're requesting to replenish the legal reserve and make some adjustments that are necessary for those 3 divisions, and then also appropriate the project costs. The total appropriations we're requesting are $3.268 million, and we have remaining funds that can be rolled into the next year's budget of about $13 million. During the finance committee meeting, some of the members did ask a question about, what if something else comes up during this year? And certainly if there was another need that came up during the year, staff would bring that to the board, and that would be something that you would take a separate action on. So that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Director Rosario.
Thank you. Very good and thorough report as usual. Thank you. I just have a question on, are we setting aside any of these mid-year funds for our upcoming projects like Lake Temescal and Jewel Lake specifically, or?
So this year is the first year we are taking actions such as that as part of the annual budget process. So since there isn't an immediate need at Lake Temescal of something where we need additional funding before the end of this year, we're holding that action for the annual budget process, which will start to come to you very soon in October and November. The Finance Committee will start to get some previews.
Great. And then what's the issue at Contra Loma that requires that many cameras? Or
I think I have AGM O'Connor's going to talk to you, but we have a project to really address the swim facilities. So I'll let Jim talk.
Can we drop the slide, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think.
Good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board. In answer to Director Rosario's question, you might recall at Roberts, we had a fairly sophisticated high-resolution camera system there. And we're trying to roll out similar systems at all of our swim facilities, our guarded swim facilities, and those cameras are, there I am. These are used for both their reliability protection because they're high resolution compared to our normal camera systems. So we're trying to be consistent across all those guarded swim areas.
okay, I thought maybe that there might be a specific issue. I know we have issues at Tidewater and I hear Big Break and so.
Yeah, these are unique systems we're using just at the swim areas.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other board questions or comments? Director Lane?
So in looking at executive recruitments,
Yes.
you mentioned public affairs and a public information officer.
Police captains and the chief information officer, the CIO position
Okay.
that we
so
hired at the beginning of the
I
year.
didn't know that position was.
That was Jim Tellerico's retirement, and then we hired David Rusting. So that came due at the beginning of this year. And I believe we have other executive recruitments in the hopper as well.
So the 13 million not allocated here,
Correct.
essentially just add to existing budgeted reserves.
We recommend that being treated as one-time funds, but yes, it is currently in our reserves based on the closeout of last year, and it will remain there until we do appropriate it for specific initiatives or projects, or, save it for the future.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Do we have any requests for public comment on this item?
No, President Coffey.
Looking around the Zoom room, I don't see any hands. All right, who would like to make a motion? Director Rosario.
We need a second. Don't be shy.
I'll second.
All right. Director
Yeah.
Rosario made the motion, Director
I'll move.
Eccles
Sorry.
second.
Aye.
Any further discussion?
I thought it was Director Wieskamp that second.
Doesn't matter.
Both doesn't matter.
I was just going by my own view.
Okay, I guess I have a different view, so we'll go Director Eccles. Okay. I'm
Please
ready.
call the roll.
Yes, President Coffey. Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
And President Coffey.
Aye.
That's unanimously approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. Item 3B, authorization to award $458,610 in a construction contract regarding Point Isabel Shoreline.
Good afternoon, Director Coffey, members of the board. Jeff Rasmussen, Assistant Finance Officer, to give a presentation from my office. So I will attempt to share my screen.
Thank you, Jeff.
Can everyone see that okay?
Aye.
Terrific. Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, Assistant Finance Officer, and I'm here to ask for award of construction contract for phase 2 of the water access and shoreline protection project at Point Isabel Regional Shoreline. Just as a little background, in October of 2016, the Park District, in partnership with the Bay Water Trail, created a Bay Water Trail implementation plan. And since that time, the Park District has done an outstanding job in implementing and completing Bay Water Trail projects. So to date, we've completed 11 Bay Water Trail sites with this one revision to Point Isabel that we'll talk about in a moment. The 3 remaining sites to work on are MLK Doolittle, which Christina Kelcher just mentioned is actively under construction right now. Another Bay Water Trail site will be at Eckley Pier, which is the board's approved funding for and is in engineering design right now. And then the final one, we'll have to wait a little bit longer at Judge John Sutter Regional Shoreline, and that we'll have to wait until we acquire the Army property there. But to date, the district has made great progress on its Bay Water Trail program. Just some context for this project, it's at Point Isabel Regional Shoreline, which is part of McLaughlin East Shore State Park at the very northern end of the park up in the city of Richmond. We actually began working on this project in 2017, and part of that process was we did community outreach and design engineering for a lot of improvements at Point Isabel with the intent of phasing them or completing them as funding opportunities or priorities arose. And that included not only the Bay Water Trail site, which was completed in 2019, but additional parking and a lot of additional shoreline protection at the park. We coordinated with a lot of jurisdictions and community during this time, all the agencies and the local neighbors out there, including state parks. And we also had a great community outreach. We had a great public meeting with the Point Isabel Doggers Association, as well as the non-motorized boating community and a lot of other people out there to review, looking at all the plans that were prepared for Point Isabel. So we actually completed the Bay Water Trail site. As I mentioned, we completed the project in 2019, and that's the picture shown here on the left. That's the new launch area ramp kind of curving around, as well as a really nice gravel rigging area in the middle where people can set up their windsurfers and their kayaks and that stuff before they launch out into the water. However, almost immediately after completing the project, it was identified that the shoreline immediately north of the project was really in bad shape. So this picture on the right shows the eroded shoreline just north of the Bay Water Trail site. And first and foremost, you can see how degraded and how much erosion is going on there. But also, too, this is a really actually, it turns out to be a pretty important access point for people that come to the shoreline to try to access the shoreline. So it's just kind of a mess. So early it was identified almost immediately that we need to do something here. So this project proposes to install shoreline protection for about 360 feet north of the boat ramp. So in this picture, in this drawing, at the bottom in the dark black sort of checkerboarded area is the constructed, completed Bay Water Trail site. But it's the gray stripe of shoreline north of there that we propose to improve with this project. And with this project, we actually will then have pretty substantial or complete shoreline protection along the entire face of Point Isabel that actually faces directly out towards the Golden Gate Bridge. So with this section, we'll have a pretty strong shoreline facing protection for Point Isabel. So with this project, we have $700,000 of WW funds was budgeted for the project. Today, we spent $570,000 on engineering drawings and updating our permitting, making $642,000 available. And then once we award this contract, there will still remain $184,000 that will be needed maybe for contingency or construction management, but more importantly, will be available for future projects if needed. And so I'll just point here, so we actually got a good number of bids and all very competitive and near the engineer's estimate. But with that, we ask the board of directors to award a construction contract to Brandon Corporation for $458,610 for this shoreline protection and public access project. And with that, I will stop sharing and answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Director Corbett.
Can we go back to the sort of map? The like the drawing of the place.
Sorry about that. I have a couple buttons there. I'll see if I can go back.
Oh,
I'm having a little trouble going. There we go. All
I was out there this weekend.
Okay.
And I was noticing how, of course, the water from the bay sort of moves up into that spot too. And so can you tell us a little bit more how one could be able to get in there and get to the spot where, you know, the dogs can be, and next to where the folks that are, you know, doing their whatever the word is, doing their they've got their, well, you know, it's where they do the I'm not thinking of the word, but it's the word of the
Windsurfing.
yes, the windsurfing. Thank you very much. Yes. So tell me how this protects the ability for people who are moving in and out for this, you know, windsurfing, and maybe next to it where people are walking with their dogs, and what to do when you know, when you're having the water sort of move into that spot.
Let me change. I'll come down here. This picture. I think this picture probably when I wanted to have that conversation. What you're asking about was absolutely part of the main conversation between the dog owners and the non-motorized boat communities when we actually met with the community back in 2017. And there were maybe a lot of concerns just about conflict in general. But what I can tell you since then is that it was kind of decided then that there was plenty of opportunity and space like that. And I think since then it's actually worked out great, where just even on the original existing launch ramp in the area, the way it's set up with a couple of entrances to go and the size of it, there haven't been very many direct conflicts at the area between, you know, dog owners and non-motorized boating community and others. But it's a good question in the fact that the area we're talking about improving, this kind of eroded area here, you know, just north of the boat launch, very, very popular for people to access the shoreline. You know, that's kind of informally one of its major functions. So in meeting with the park supervisor out there, you know, we all recognize it, but he made the comment, we really need to preserve that. So what's going to happen in this area is that's actually like a larger pocket where the riprap's going to move back further, and it'll be a smoother grade so that people can get through that area much easier. And the last thing I'll show you is it's actually what's represented here in this little yellow box here at the very bottom, is that we're going to expand that area. So it'll be a gentler grade, match existing, and let people get in there.
Yeah, because you can see the spot that they've set aside for people launching. And then next to it, there's the area, if the water's coming up and people are walking with their dogs, it seems to be a spot where it's kind of hard to be along the edge of the water if it's moving up, if the water's moving up.
I'm not exactly sure, but I would say at many tides, you can walk along here. And when we do this project, it won't change that dramatically. All of the open area between here and down into the launch ramp will remain. You know what I mean? That is true. There are other places maybe further back in this picture where the shoreline steeper, where you don't have a lot of those opportunities. But no, absolutely. Once this project is done, the people will still have the opportunity to kind of walk along the shoreline, get onto the mud, get onto the flats during low tide. And that's what they do, is they come down here and then make their way onto the boat ramp, and that will continue.
Yeah, well, this was a time when the water was fairly high, so you could see that it had a bit of a challenge. But the area where the launching is happening, it looked like it was working pretty well.
Yeah.
So thank you for your work.
You're welcome. And at high tides, we obviously run out of real estate, but that is one of the attractive areas, that during many tides and lower tides, like in the picture here, there's a lot of room for everybody.
Yeah, this is much lower tide than what I saw that day. But thank you for the work being done. It's quite a beautiful spot.
Dennis, did you have a question?
Sure. Well, just a comment. Thank you for the presentation. I look forward to rehabilitating this area. It is a beautiful area. I was wondering, Jeff, so when we did the notice of determination in what it was 2017, and we got all the permitting, I'm frightened to death of that place simply because it wasn't one of the top 5 EPA Superfund sites with its battery deal. I mean, and we have had a leak out or a blowout or whatever you want to refer to it as up the channel a ways. Was anything determined there? Was it still holding fast, or were there any requirements for us to do anything to continually? I know we cap it, but once we start dealing with what the tides do to it, was there any evidence of anything leaking out?
Sorry. Yeah, the area you're talking about is largely the North Island across the Kaufman Channel from this site. But no, we absolutely did do a hazmat test in this area and found nothing. And we also in our phase 1 toxic report in the CEQA process didn't identify any potential sources at this exact site. All that battery stuff is a little further to the north. When during the excavation for the original boat launch project in 2019, though, we did find like some pile of debris, dishes and things like that. So we did have our archaeologists looking out on that, but we were looking for toxics and found none.
All right, and then just finally, as a comment, as a HASPA guy, I'm glad this is coming to the fold. So you all understand, and I support this totally, but 370 feet of bay shoreline, $500,000. Do the math. I was doing it. You know, there are 840 miles of California coastline that we're all going to have to deal with. There are 55 miles of regional parks shoreline that we're going to need to protect and deal with sea level rise, and God knows how many miles of shoreline in the San Francisco Bay, because it's almost, I think it's over 500 if you think about like the Bay Ridge Trail and the Bay Trail, but that equates to, I think, $7 million a mile. So we're in for a great future.
Good point. Other comments? Director Lane.
Well, you know, this is really a beautiful part of the shoreline and it's so readily accessible. I'm so glad to see the shoreline beginning to have some tender loving care. And I think the area that we're talking about today is the one where people like to get their dogs down there on the shoreline and walk, and the dogs go into the water, right? Yes. You know, it's really a cool piece of land, and so I'm glad to see this happening. I do have a question about the water trail sites. So could you put that list back on again, and maybe AGM O'Connor could say a word about that? I mean, I think that's very impressive that we have 11 completed sites in the Park District. And if someone wants to spend the night, do they need to contact, they probably can't do it at all the sites, but do they need to contact the Park District for a special permit to do that? How does that work? For instance, somebody's going to do all 11 and they know about tides. How does that work? And these are all complete, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
So once again, Assistant General Manager Jim O'Connor. So Director Lane, the only one that has a formal campground, I'm looking at the list, sorry, I'm scrambling here for a minute here, but
Point Pinole
has the formal campground. You can get a reservation for that. The remaining ones would have to be done through a special event permit process. We could work that out. Obviously, we have to work with the individual park staff that manage those sites, but we could work that through a special event permit process.
Could you call me back?
That's correct. Correct. You're welcome.
New shower too.
And a shower too.
a new one.
Yeah.
Anne, did you want to ask a question?
You know, I just think it's fantastic what we've done there. Think about the past and seeing what the opportunities were. And it's actually happening. That's the great thing about being around here for a while. You see things actually coming to fruition and people using them. And isn't that exciting? So I think this is a next step that people are really going to appreciate it. And probably there'll be a few dogs appreciating being around the area too. You know. But
Absolutely.
yeah, no, it's just, but I've got to say that Dennis has got a point when he brought up there's an awful lot of shoreline. And I don't know how we're going to go about, but maybe something magic will come along to cure some of this problem. I don't know. But anyway, what we've done here is good. And this is another good step. You do what you can, right?
Elizabeth?
Yeah, Jeff, first of all, thank you so much for the report. I'm very excited to see this moving forward and fully support the resolution. And to Anne's point and Dennis's point, it is true. It's going to be very expensive to do the shoreline protection. But that said, I'm very happy that we're doing it here. Point Isabel is a much beloved place for grown-ups, kids, dogs, windsurfers, etc. And so it's yeah, it's important and it's a great access point, and this is just going to make Point Isabel even better. So very, very happy and very excited.
Okay, Elizabeth, I'll come back to you in a moment for a motion. I want to look around the room. Madam Clerk, any requests for public comment?
No, President Coffee.
I don't see any around the room, so we're ready for a motion to approve the resolution. Director Eccles.
Great. Well, I'm pleased to make the motion to approve the resolution to authorize the award of $458,610 to Brandon Corporation to install the shoreline protection.
I'll second it.
And I saw Director Corbett first.
Okay.
She was just there. She deserves a right to second,
Yeah.
right?
I was thinking something like that. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffee. Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
And President Coffee.
Aye.
Now we are unanimously approving item 3B.
Jeff, thank you very much for the presentation. Very well done.
Thank you. Thanks.
That concludes our business for the afternoon. We have a report under General Manager's comments.
Yes, that is Eric Fueller. But I'm sorry, General Manager. She has something to say. Sorry about that.
No, you said it perfectly, Yolanda.
Yeah, good afternoon. Eric Feeler, Chief of Government and Legislative Affairs. Like Jeff, I was presenting from the office, so let me share my screen. And just as a reminder, back in June, Government Affairs did a pilot trip up to Sacramento for in-person advocacy. It's the first time we did such of a trip since COVID and since we were in Washington, D.C. in February of 2020. But we got to see the swing space, which is where the legislative staff and legislators are working as the Capitol gets renovated. And people were very eager to see us. We were very well received. And I do want to thank Director Rosario and Management Analyst Lisa Baldinger and Legislative Assistant Flora Santos for their participation and making a great day out of it. So June 28th in Sacramento. And then mostly when we talk about the advocacy topics, at that time we were discussing the state budget and the budget surplus, and primarily asking for $8 million to continue our wildfire resiliency work. So our first meeting on that regard was with Deputy Secretary Jessica Morris. Very engaging conversation. She said there's $100 million in the budget for post-fire restoration. And you'll hear big numbers throughout the presentation because there's a large amount of funding being allocated towards climate health. And those allocations haven't 100% been determined yet. That's still the negotiation that's going on between the governor and the legislature as we speak, and may not get resolved until the end of the month. And an interesting anecdote from our meeting with Jessica, we talked a little bit about our use of a carbonator to dispose of the biomass when we remove the dead trees in Anthony Chabot. And she was very interested in that topic, and also let us know that biochar can be used for cattle feed. So very interesting piece of information. And she's very supportive of Conservation Corps site out at, she calls it Bollinger Canyon, we call it Holly Court, but having a permanent facility for the California Conservation Corps to have 2 crews based in the East Bay.
Eric, excuse me, are you supposed to be sharing your screen?
I am. Is it not?
We're not seeing anything.
We're looking at you, which is nice.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
We were
Nice
listening.
view.
We were listening attentively.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's
Let's
okay.
see.
You probably just didn't click on that little green button, the share screen button.
Too many buttons.
Yeah.
And let me pull this down. Okay.
Do you have the presentation open?
I do, but it's not.
And then go to share screen. Share screen should be at the
Reduce the
bottom.
size. Let me just reduce the size.
There we go.
Okay, can you see it?
I can
Yes.
see. Yay. Well, it's kind of.
There you go. There we go.
Okay.
You're
Fantastic.
there.
Well, we already did Jessica, so we'll move on to Miranda Flores, who's the Deputy Secretary for Legislation. And she used to work for Assemblymember Bill Quirk, so very familiar with the Park District. And she was very interested in our work with ecologically sensitive vegetation management, and also how we were removing the trees. She had a very strong interest in the vegetation treatment program, which is a permitting program under Cutting the Green Tape that enables us to do work in areas that aren't maybe necessarily covered under our fire plan, but are in areas of high need. In that program, I believe our stewardship staff is very, very supportive and keen on. So we will be providing resources, some examples from our work in that program. Then we met with the Wildlife Conservation Board. John Donnelly is a friend of the district. They're receiving a lot of the funding in the climate package. Our main ask for this entity was some funding for Finley Road. And they informed us that they are down about 7 staff. And so the earliest they're going to be able to expend any funding from this year's budget would be mid-November. And even then, it sounded like that might be a bit of a stretch, but they are going to have $252 million for restoration and stewardship work in their budget for next year. Then we met with the Chief of Staff for Senator Wachowski. The main ask here was the $8 million for our continued wildfire resilience. And the staff person we met with was very much urging us to continue to push for that. And so I wanted to thank Director Wieskamp and Director Rosario for both having follow-up conversations with Senator Wachowski. We've had follow-up conversations with his staff. And our last meeting with him earlier this week or late last week was that we're still in the game is I think the exact quote. So there's still a possibility we will receive some of that funding. We then met with Assemblymember Wilson. She actually attended the meeting. It was our first time meeting with her. She has a very strong interest in mental health and open space and the connections between the two. So we invited her out to Big Break to meet with Director Coffey and others just to get more familiar with the Park District, but I think she will be a strong partner for us over time. Then we met with the Parks and Wildlife staff person for Assemblymember Bauer Cahan, Keith Galano. He would like to come out to the Park District. He was very interested in the Finley Road project, but again, Funding was did not seem like it was going to be likely coming from a member ask, but probably through an agency such as WCB or Coastal Conservancy. Then we met with Tomasa from Assemblymember Bonta's office. She's also a longtime friend of the Park District. She's worked for, I believe, also for Bill Quirk in the past. And Assemblymember Bonta really took the lead on the $8 million ask this year, organizing a delegation letter that was signed by all of the East Bay folks, and also reaching out to leadership staff in the Speaker's office and communicating those actions with with Senators Wachowski and Skinner, who are managing the budget on the Senate side. And then our last meeting of the day was with the new legislative, well, I guess not so new now, but the legislative director for Assemblymember Wicks. He is new to her office and new to the Park District, but very eager to work on not just funding projects, but also policy projects that could help with climate resiliency and also just with the Park District in general. And that concludes the day. And let's see, hope I can stop sharing. And I'm happy to take any questions that folks might have about our pilot program. But I will say, I think it was successful. We got to see folks and they were receptive, and they really liked the Park District. So it was a good day.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions or comments for Eric? Director Wieskamp.
I just wanted to say, I think you do an impressive job of pulling not only we board members, but everybody in there meeting and doing our best to be in a very positive, low-key way for what the Park District wants. Because I think most people like parks, elected officials, and I think if you approach them with positive statements that you really sincerely believe will help, that they'll do their best to help you. So good job to you and all your staff.
Thank you. Director Rosario.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I just wanted to thank Eric and Lisa and Doug Houston for putting all that together. It was a very hot day that day.
Oh my.
And but we got through it, and I just think these meetings, these face-to-face meetings, even if it's with staff, are very, very important. And I just appreciate all the work that went into it, and glad we had those conversations. So thank you. Good job, Eric.
Director Waspy.
Yeah, I was going to say also, thank you, Eric, and your whole team. You have a vision. I think it's very simple for us to show off our product, because we have the product. When we get grants from these folks and Congress and legislative people get us money, we perform with it. We do a great job with it. We don't waste it. We don't squander it. We do excellent work for our clientele, but we need to conduit. You have to get those folks out into the parks. You have to get in their ear, and you guys, I don't know how you do it, but I'm really happy you do. I mean, I know you blow them away with graphics. I can't get over the graphics that we do when we have packets and we bring them along and show them to assembly members and members of Congress. It's pretty amazing, and you guys are the head of that, and I sure appreciate it.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, I think that does it, Eric. Thank you very much. Very good presentation and good work.
Thank you.
Anything else from the general manager's comments? All righty. Announcements from closed session, council?
Thank you, President Coffey. No announcements.
All right, board committee reports. I think the minutes for the two executive committee meetings are complete. Anything to augment finance, Dennis?
No.
All right.
Any questions?
All right, we will move to conclusion with board comments. I managed to leave my activities list at home, so I'll have to catch up next month, but Perhaps the rest of you weren't so unprepared for this one. I'm going to go by my screen, which would have you, Ann, going first, and then Director Rosario, and then Director Lane.
Just President Coffey, you probably couldn't see, but Director Corbett did have her hands raised. I don't know if Director Corbett, if you had a pressing hard stop or not.
I was just going to let the president know that I left my calendar someplace too. So I'm glad my presentation.
Okay, you and I will have to catch up.
Yes.
Ann?
Okay, I thought you said my name, but I wasn't sure. Since the August 9th board meeting, I think one of the most wonderful events I've attended, and others were there, was the Crevice Garden special opening. I brought a couple of friends and they were equally impressed. One of them said, I think I need to join this, even if I don't live in the area. But I sincerely believe that we ought to get our team effort going for a film. They must have pictures of the process, because honestly, you would not understand how difficult it was without the explanation we got from Bart, and how important it is what we're doing there for preservation with all the climate change. So personally, I watch a lot of PBS and I can see a short, fun, educational film about that. So I hope we can make that happen. And congratulations to all involved in the project, including those people who went high up in the Sierras and gathered those plants carefully. Just amazing what our staff and friends do. Last afternoon, I was at the, I guess probably the last advisory committee meeting I'll go to as a board member. And it was kind of fun to look down and see Olivia, who's in among her last meetings. She will attend as a park advisory committee member, and the positive change that's going to happen. They had a very long, interesting discussion about what they view as the role, and I'm sure that'll be continuing, of the advisory committee, and you'll get a report on that. And I've had one update from the general manager on a variety of things. And that's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ann. Director Ling?
All right, thank you. I've actually done some interesting things outside of the Park District that I'll mention. One
Really?
is going to the Oakland Museum for the Hella Feminist exhibit, which was pretty fascinating. Some things more understandable than others. And so I'd recommend people take a look at that. And then I had the opportunity to go to Grants Pass in Southern Oregon, and there wasn't that much smoke, but I was totally impressed with the mountains being all green.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so used to going south to Yosemite or looking at some of our forests, which have distressed trees in them. And this was just a green experience. It was very interesting, and including some time on the Rogue River. And then Sunday, I had a chance to get together with a group of volunteers who are gradually going through the Saramone Creek from the Friends group, eradicating arundo. And it's somewhat of a uphill battle, but at least they're working away on it so it doesn't float downstream to Walnut Creek in the way that it used to. Then in terms of getting to the parks, I spent some time with our general manager at the Alhambra staging area in Briones. while we watched some people from Mills work on a squirrel project. Plenty of squirrels, yeah. And they know a whole lot about them. So they've been doing it for several years. It
Are they
was quite
building
interesting.
houses for the squirrels?
Pardon me?
Are they building houses?
You know, they're doing scientific things with squirrels.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I don't-
so if
I
you
guess
want
I
to
don't
know
wanna
about
know the details.
squirrels at the entry to Briones from that area, this is the group to ask. Then I did have a chance to go to Ardenwood to see the Carter Railroad extension ride and then ribbon cutting. Several people from Fremont there, very, very pleased with the project. And I also had a chance to do a Patterson House tour, which I have not done in some years. So that was interesting. And then we took a little ride over to see the Dumbarton Campgrounds. And this is, you know, after having just seen it at the opening, to actually see people there and naturalists getting ready for a program, walking around and talking to everybody. It's a very cool sight. And when those trees grow, it really will be beautiful sight. Then in terms of meetings, since last I reported, I did have an opportunity to go to the board workshop, done several tours of Thurgood Marshall with legislators and the public. And last week, John Mercurio, who's been a long time past member of the PAC, was the only person who filed for Ward 6. And so I'm pretty excited to have such a qualified person going to join the board in January as I retire. So.
Well, I want to congratulate you and Ann for getting these people elected by your mere endorsement. It was, it was.
I think their service on our advisory committee really helped. People believed that they knew what they were going to be doing. That's commendable.
I think that's correct. And I'm also excited to see these two really good new people coming on board. It's going to be a good thing that happened. Let's go to Director Rosario, then Eccles and Waspy.
Okay. I recall we didn't get a chance to do this at the last meeting.
Right.
So we have to go back a little further. So the things of note from previous, on 7/22, I attended the board study session. I thought that was a wonderful session. Thank you to staff for all the work that went into that. Very well done. And then also that evening, I met with 2428 and then on 8/1, I met with Nick DeHaja. You'll see my name signed on to the parcel tax bill that's give me this election for the Oakland Zoo. And then on 8/4, I'm also I'm on a subcommittee for the Oakland Commission on Aging. And we met with Carol Fife and she was very enthusiastic about our proposal to put in a multi-generational playground right next to the downtown senior center. This showed me the inflexibility of a two-year budget plan, as that she said we'd have to wait a while to the next, but she's very enthusiastic about it, and so we'll be going forward from there. And then on 8/8, I met with a constituent that lives on Barbara Witt. She lives off of Scott Grizzly Peak, and we looked at she was concerned about some poison hemlock growing below her home. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the fuel break crew. The fuel break there looked absolutely perfect. Everything was cut everything on ground level was cut, chipped. It looked great, and I tried to assure Barbara that the poison hemlock was way down there, and and the fuel break was going to be incredibly functional, and so but I said we could probably remove that poison hemlock with volunteers sometime in the future, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the fire department and the fuel break crew. Absolutely gorgeous down there. And then of course the board meeting on the 9th, and then on the 11th I met with Jerry Kent, and we looked at the Brill property. This is a property directly adjacent to our Claremont Canyon, and it's a direct access. I think it's a great piece of property. Gives us direct access, and in fact, we're using it now as access for our contractors to access for the fuel break work that's done there. It gives us access not only for park but also for the fire department as well. So it's a nice piece of property, and just to let you know too, the neighbors chipped in there. While it's still private property, the neighbors chipped in with the owner, and they chipped in enough to remove most of the remaining of the eucalyptus trees on that property. So take a look at that. It's really nice. And then tenant subcommittee on 8/12, executive committee. And then on 8/16, Captain Patrick McIntyre and I met with the Friends of Joaquin Miller Park for a second meeting. And we tried to assure them that we would help with their assessments for, they're applying for a grant through Healthy Parks, no, is it Healthy Forest grant from Cal Fire. And they're really interested in us helping them, but we said we couldn't commit any real time, but Patrick and I both committed to at least walking the property and giving them some kind of an assessment, and then go from there. And then just through when we attended the Unionist of the Year dinner just recently, I met with Sean Stark, former captain from City of Oakland, and he informed me that Zach Unger, who's a captain, I think he's a captain, he's president of the firefighters union, he has a degree in forestry. So I'm going to see if the Friends of Joaquin Miller Park, we can reach out to them too. And then on the 17th, I attended the Alameda County's Dig Deep Farms dedication at Ardenwood. What a great event. And it was really, there was a multitude of speakers, and it's great to see two visions, the visions of the Park District and then the visions of the people of Alameda County of taking care of the land, nurturing the land, and sharing its bounty with the community. And I believe Supervisor Nate Miley and Wilma Chan and Richard Vallier had this dream of growing food for the community. And there was a Dr. Chen there who's now prescribing that food as medicine. So it was a great event, and there was good food there and good speakers and good camaraderie. And that's where I met with another one for Christina. These events is where you get a chance to mingle with people and catch up. And Hank Levy, there, the county assessor, was wanting to know if we were still interested in the tax deferred properties that he presented along Claremont Canyon. And then also that day, I attended the City of Oakland Sister City Fukuoka, Japan event at the Lake Merritt Garden Center. What a wonderful event. And the Sister City in Japan, the City of Oakland and Fukuoka exchange high school students annually. And this year, a delegation from Japan came over, and Oakland had put together this incredible mural, and it resides now at the Lake Merritt Garden Center. And we had a hand in that. They collected pebbles from Redwood, Reinhardt Redwood Regional Park, and they're serpentine rocks, and they're embedded in the mural. We have our name and tiles near the bottom along the stream, and it is gorgeous. I wish I should have I meant to bring a picture, but I forgot, but it's gorgeous and it's at the Lake Merritt Garden Center. And then the following day, we had a second event where we took the delegation, Director Corbett and I, and we took them for a hike in Redwood Park. And the mayor of Fukuoka was so delighted with that walk. He said, I don't want any more meetings inside.
Good idea.
And I just wanted to thank Mona Ko and naturalist Paula Urteco for putting this all together. Paula led the delegation earlier in the year to select rocks for the mural, and then she led the hike the following day, and so it was just very well done. And I think it just made me think that we should probably participate in some of these sister city events, and not just because of the relationships with these sister cities outside the country, but the chance to build relationships with the city staff. So I really met some really great people from the city of Oakland that are brand new, and it was very, very good.
Why not a park district, sister park district?
We do have one, South Korea.
We do?
I can't remember the name. Where's Mona? We had, they came here in 2017. Yes, it was, I remember, it was right after the election. And they came here, delegation, and we had them in this very room, and they presented us we exchanged gifts. Unfortunately, we also had a hike in Lake Chabot. Unfortunately, their lunch was disturbed by yellow jackets.
Oh my. Outdoors is not always easy.
And then that evening, I also had another conversation with Academy 2428. And then on the 19th, the next day, I met with Eric and Kristen Van Dam with Senator Wachowski, and I thought he's on his way out, and well, he is anyway. He's very frank, and so he was going to see what he could do for us. And then also that evening, I attended the Central Labor Council Unionist of the Year dinner. Very well attended. The board members couldn't all fill the seats, so we had 3 members from 2428, and I'm very grateful that they can come. And then on the 20th, attended the dedication for the Crescent Garden. Absolutely stunning, I thought. Congratulations to everybody that put that on. Brenda Montano and her staff and public affairs, they did a great job putting that all together. And again, congratulations to the staff there at the Botanical Garden. Bart and Michael Euler deserve everything they got. And then yesterday, I attended the memorial for P.O. Loft's husband, Graham Loft, at the Brazilian Room. Very sad, and but it was very, very well attended, and it was good to see. We had a good turnout from her colleagues in the naturalist and her supervisors and naturalists and park rangers, and it's good to see that her Regional Parks Foundation, or her Regional Parks family, was there to support, and she was very grateful. And I would like to close our meeting today on his behalf.
Okay, we will so note.
Thank you. And that's it. Thank you very much. It was a busy.
Another dull month for Director Rosario. Madam Clerk.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on the sister city. Our the sister organization is the City of Fukuoka, Fukuoka, and they were just here in August at Reinhardt, celebrating their 60th anniversary.
Yes.
So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Great, thank you.
I did not know that. Elizabeth?
Yeah, well, thank you, President Coffey. Always a tough act to follow. My
Yeah,
fellow
sorry.
board member directors, but glad to see you're busy as usual. Yeah, so I'm also going to start back in from July activities since I was unable to attend the August 9th meeting since I was on vacation. So starting with July 22nd, I attended the board's study session on capital planning and prioritization. A really excellent meeting that we had. Appreciate all the work that went into that, as well as the prioritization plan that came out, which we voted on today. So really thanks again on that. On the 26th, I met with management consultant Dan Keene to provide input into our general counsel's goals and her evaluation. On July 27th, I attended the finance committee meeting. On the 29th, I had a really enjoyable walk and meeting with our general manager out at Inspiration Point on the Nimitz Trail. And then, as I mentioned, was not able to attend the August 9th meeting because I was on vacation up in the Sierras. And just want to say it was really great to be fully offline for more than a week. That I haven't done that in probably decades. So definitely recommend it. And it was also wonderful to come back and have the Crevice Garden ribbon cutting event, particularly since the Crevice Garden is all about the plants up in the High Sierra. Some of those plants were also at the elevation where we were in Tuolumne. So it was fun to come back and, be reminded of those plants and also the work that the Botanic Garden staff is doing in calling to attention these particularly these high elevation plants, which are so impacted by climate change. And we are really the only ones in the world, or certainly in this country, who are trying to put this type of exhibit together. And in fact, we are the only ones in the world using these specific High Sierra plants, because these High Sierra plants only really grow in our region. So it's anyway, so really want to thank everybody involved in that celebration and just acknowledge how great it was to not only celebrate the Crevice Garden exhibit, but also our incredible staff, Bart and Michael and Liz and others who have been involved, and just really appreciate all of their hard work and the hard work of the volunteers. We have over 100 docents involved in the work at the garden, and it's great. So also want to thank my fellow board members for attending. Several of were in attendance. Director Corbett, Director Coffey, Director Wieskamp, and Director Rosario. So really appreciate the turnout and all of the excitement and enthusiasm. Great celebration and party was had by all. So thank you. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Dennis?
Thank you. I for the past month, I've been away on vacation, and so I haven't done much, but it was a wonderful experience over in Switzerland. It was interesting. I hope you'll bear with me while I walk around in a daze for the next couple of weeks, saying we need an aerial tramway up Tyler Ranch, up to the top of Pleasanton Ridge, but God, it's so convenient and so fun. Anyway, I would note to everyone that I got a letter from Eric Jones. Eric Jones is the golf pro at Redwood Canyon Golf Course. I also sent an email to you guys because I couldn't figure out a way to show you on screen today. But, Eric's very proud of the fact that he's got day camps going at Redwood Canyon Golf Course. He's engaging youth. He had 5 junior summer camp programs this year. He considered very successful. 122 kids went through his program as students from 6 to 15. And he also provided jobs for 6 kids in the community to run or work on these summer camps with them. So he was very proud of that, and I'm very proud of him also. They're really, it's such a community-oriented group, and I know that every time we see Steve Harker come here, we're really impressed with the fact that he's running both of our golf courses and really community-oriented and doing a great job. I would also like to note the passing of Betty Moose. I don't know if you knew Betty Moose. She was a wonderful, wonderful person who was so active in Southern Alameda County. She had spent many, many years on the San Lorenzo School District Board of Trustees. But that was just a small part of Betty's life. She was such an activist, such a sweet, wonderful activist. She was, if there's any HASPA members here listening in, she was a thorn in our flesh. She was going to save that shoreline, and she was a stout advocate and a great advocate. And she passed, but I think she was 92 or 3 years old. Had a wonderful, wonderful life, and I'd just like to give my best to her, because she was a wonderful, wonderful person and a park advocate for years and years. Welcome to Olivia and John. I look forward to serving with them. And Ana Alvarez, congratulations. We're so proud of you to get on that 30 by 30 commission. I think that's I'm very happy for you and very proud of you. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Dennis. I left my list at home, but I did also want to echo the sentiments expressed about the Crevice Garden event and how well it was done and how deserving the recognition was for Bart and Michael. I also very much enjoyed the walk and talks, attending the walk and talks, Congressman DeSaulnier at Thurgood Marshall and Congressman Swalwell at Lake Chabot. And I know that both these members of Congress were really pleased with the event and how it went for their constituents. So that is it for the meeting. Before we adjourn, do you want to repeat your closing sentiment?
Sure, I would like to close our meeting today in honor and in memory of Graham Loft, husband of Pia Loft, one of our great naturalists that currently at Black Diamond, a father of 2, and from the testimonies, quite a character, a lovable character, and an adventurer, and he left a strong memory amongst his friends and family, and with me too. And he was somebody sounded like he would be somebody I would be gravitate to myself. So I would like to close in his memory.
So we will close and thank you for representing the board at the Brazilian Room.
You're welcome.
We will close in Graham's memory and stand adjourned. Thank you.